Hello and welcome to PopFlash. I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole, and this is everything you need to know about Counter-Strike this week. Our first story this week is the ESL and ESEA Pro League, which took place over the weekend in Cologne, Germany. We had the top 4 European teams and top 4 North American teams from the online season in attendance, all competing for a slice of that $250,000 prize pool. So, Moses, let me come straight to you and let's take a look at the group stage results, or standings I should say. So, first of all, if you guys watching at home haven't seen the results of Pro League, this is going to look a little bit crazy. We've got Cloud9 second place in Group A, CLG first in Group B. CLG have actually finished ahead of Fnatic and TSM in Group B. Moses, big success for North America, right? Cloud9 and CLG both went through. You were there on site in Cologne. In fact, you still are there on site in Cologne. Yep. What was the atmosphere like on that first day, and what was going so right for the North American teams?
Oh, it was crazy. I just know. I mean, Cloud9 wasn't that surprising per se. It was when CLG won against Fnatic. I mean, everyone was just shocked, like jaws hit the floor. And then when Keystars beat TSM in the following match, it was like, holy shit, this tournament just got turned on its head. So it was like absolute amazement throughout the entire studio. Everyone was just. I mean, you could even see. I mean, immediately it was like CLG and Keystars were all like happy and buoyant, and then you could look at TSM and Fnatic, and they were just like crushed. They're like, "Oh my God, we're playing these guys for an elimination match."
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Fnatic and TSM a little bit, seeing as you brought them up. People called that a great match. That it was only a best of one, but they said it was one of the best group stage matches they'd seen in recent memory. That was a shame that it was in the groups and not the grand final, almost, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it a couple ways. I like to think that, I mean, listen, the best of a bad situation, we basically got 2 grand finals, you could say, in a sense. I mean, it was an amazing match to watch. It was one of the most intense matches I've personally ever seen in CSGO. Part of it because, as everyone's complaining, it was a best of one, which is a shame, but, I mean, because it was a best of one, it was so incredibly intense, and it was an elimination match. I mean, I watched it with Similar and Devilwalk and Natu, and we were all just like edge of our seat. Like it was close throughout the entire match. It's not like it was a blowout and someone caught up. It was like every round there was a reason to scream and cheer. It was insane.
Okay, well, of course, another reason to go insane was Cloud9. We'll come back to them. They were almost the story of the tournament in some regards. Reddit's been going wild about them. Sean Gares is suddenly a wizard among men. Shroud and Skadoodle were top fragging as well. What impressed you most about Cloud9 at this tournament?
Sean and Shroud, and that's not to say anything bad about Skadoodle. It's just kind of what I've come to expect from him. At least I've always thought ever since he's joined Cloud9 is one of those things. Well, even ever since Face It, actually, when he got to the finals with iBuyPower, I've thought that he could be one of the best oppers in the world. And I think he showed that here at this tournament. So he was impressive, but not the most impressive. I think Sean calling, I think that was one of the big question marks of this team, was how's Sean going to do taking over like it's his team? He has full control. So what's he going to do with it? Is he going to be able to transform and get to that next level of in-game leadership, or is he kind of going to become stagnant or just not improve? And he stepped up in a big, big way. That team does not have this success without him there. Shroud finally shows that he can carry throughout a whole map versus, you know, just having his highlight moments, his really, really strong rounds and really good clutches. He can carry that team potentially through matches.
Okay, well, let's move on to have a look at the bracket stage now. So as we look at this graphic, we'll see the quarterfinals on the far left. It's a little bit of a strange format, so we've got 2 quarterfinal matches, then 2 semi-finals, and the grand final. So we've got Keystars losing to Fnatic in the first quarter, Cloud9 obviously beating Enviers down there at the bottom, and then we work right through to the grand final where Fnatic beat Cloud9 3-1. Now, that grand final, Moses, people said it could have gone either way. Fnatic themselves said it could have gone either way.
Yep.
Why didn't it go the other way? What stopped? Was it? I mean, why didn't Cloud9 win? Was it Fnatic playing well, or maybe small mistakes creeping into Cloud9's game at the end?
Well, I mean, you look at the map that Cloud9 won, Kabul, one of Fnatic's better maps that they've seen, or that they've had. You know, one of their better records in terms of their LAN performances. and that was so close. I mean, that came down to just a couple rounds the other way. I mean, it came down to the fact that Cloud9 got a really hot start on their T side, went up like 5-0, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they just bullied Fnatic for the first 5 rounds. So, I mean, that was great. They needed that, especially. The other maps, I mean, what map was it? It was Cash, that was kind of a stomp, and then there was Overpass and Dust 2 that were both equally close, that Cloud9 had those big leads and kind of dropped them in the end.
Yeah.
Talking to Pronax after the event, I asked him, I was like, what was going on? Why was Cloud9 beating up on you guys? And he's like, they played amazing. He's like, they kicked the shit out of us for X amount of rounds. And then he said, on Dust 2 and Overpass, those comebacks, like, that was probably some of the best team Counter-Strike that this Fnatic lineup has ever played. And he flat out admitted it. He was just like, Cloud9 forced us to get to a level that we've never been to before. So, yeah, Cloud9 was up big, but you didn't see anything. There were some mistakes in some clutch rounds, but like, it's not like they made any massive gameplay errors that let Fnatic come back. It's just so hard to stop a team like Fnatic when they have 4 players who individually can carry that squad, at any different time.
For our second topic this week, we're going to have a little bit of a preview of this weekend's ESWC tournament in Montreal, Canada. Now, the prize pool is $75,000, and some of the world's best teams are in attendance, but also some of the world's most far-flung teams. If we have a look at the list of attending teams, Moses, we can see we've got Titan, Ninjas in Pyjamas, Envy, SK, Na'Vi, but also outsiders like Renegades from Australia. We've got Bravado from South Africa, and we've got what I assume is pronounced Ki Yu from China. Of this team list, which teams stand out most to you here, and what are you going to be looking for from those teams?
I mean, a lot of them actually. A lot of them stand out. Titan, I want to see. I mean, they're going through a rough patch. I think they. I mean, there's always conversation when they play up and down to their competition. So, in a tournament like this, they've got to be very careful going against, especially teams from North America, especially with how they're playing. But
yeah.
See how they respond to that. I only think they've got like 1 or 2 more struggles in them before that team's kind of got to change something in terms of lineup.
Oh, really?
NIP, I think, is always an exciting team to see them try and get back to the top where they've been. Just spent the week with Not2, who's their coach, and he's very, very intelligent in terms of Counter-Strike and in terms of how to build and develop a team. So looking forward to see the progression of that squad as his influence lasts a little bit longer. Envy's got to bounce back. That'll be interesting to watch what they do. And then Na'Vi as well, and how well they've been playing recently, because I mean, they've been doing very well in the tournaments they've been to in the past few months. And even, you can even say pretty much every U team, because Flipside is going to have Simple, who they don't get for the Pro League, and they were bottom of the standings in Pro League because they didn't have that star player. So that's always cool to see how they change, how much better they are with him in the lineup versus without. It's just a big disparity. From the North American side, it's going to be Cloud9, obviously, see if they can repeat something. They're expecting now to get to at least semifinals, I would say.
Definitely.
CLG, I mean, they only had 1 best-of-1 win against the European. They got crushed by Cloud9. So you've got to think that, was that a fluke? Was that just because they were able to prepare against Fnatic for 5 hours? And then that's what helped them win, and now they're just getting crushed by everyone, so we'll see how that goes. Liquid, they've stepped it up in online play. And then obviously Renegades, the former Vox. I always love seeing those guys play at international events, and watch them improve as they go.
Okay, well, you've mentioned Renegades there and some of the other far-flung teams. ESWC is known for having these kind of international teams flying in for the tournament, and that's got to be quite nice for some of the teams that just see each other all the time. It's got to be nice to have that variety mixed in, but at the same time, does it make this tournament less competitive? Are those teams like Renegades and Ki denying spots from legitimate European contenders, for example?
I mean, yeah, but not in a bad way, because I mean, you look at all the European teams that dropped out of ESWC, so I mean, this could have been much stronger in terms of European competition, but just teams dropped out. That's why we have some extra North American teams in there as well. So, I mean, it's not necessarily their fault they're getting invited. And this has always been the format of ESWC, and it's just a little crazy that, I mean, these are going to be the first chance for teams like Bravado and Ki, and that'll be really cool. Really cool to see them play, especially from regions that we normally don't get to see any kind of play style. And yeah, they might get stomped, but who knows? Maybe one of them's going to surprise us.
Last but not least, this week I've got some quick-fire questions for you, Moses. So, as quick as you can, give me your thoughts on the following news stories. First up, Nihilum have signed Desi.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if that's going to be a big difference for that team. They had a lot of struggles on their T side tactically. I mean, he's going to be a little bit of a better fragger, but I mean, we've also seen Elevate when they picked up Desi, they kind of dipped a little bit. So it's all going to depend on how Semphis and Hiko are able to rein him in and how they're able to control him as a player within that lineup.
DreamHack has hinted at a North American event.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Really exciting stuff. So I mean, we've always wanted more events here in North America. This is going to be one of them. Just another opportunity for North American teams, and hopefully, it's going to be a big enough event where it'll entice some European teams to come over and get some more international competition.
Absolutely, and last but not least, we're dipping into the world of women's Counter-Strike very briefly. United have signed for Counter-Logic Gaming as CLG Red.
That's just really cool. It gives them a lot more opportunities, and we're seeing a lot more women's events as well. Copenhagen Games has one, ESWC, so it's not just one tournament per year for these women. Yep. They can travel a lot more.
That's it for this week. I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole.
And we'll be back next Wednesday with another episode of PopFlash.